Thanks so much, Shannon. Appreciate it. Greetings, everyone. Peg Brady from NOAA Fisheries. Welcome back to our 2023 NOAA Fisheries Ecosystem-Based Fishery Management Seminar Series. This series continues on for a number of years now, and our main objective has been to increase awareness regarding EBM and highlight the progress that not only NOAA is doing, but our partners are making to enhance EBM strategies. And also to better understand the processes of EBM. Shannon and the NOAA Library continues to be a valuable co-host with us here and archives all these seminars on their YouTube channel. We offer these seminars the second Wednesday of each month at 3 in the afternoon and Eastern time. Each presentation, as Shannon pointed out, is publicly accessible and recorded and archived. And all the past recordings are available for everyone to see. Following today's presentation, you'll have an opportunity to ask Will questions, and Shannon will field those questions. And there's a function on your GoToWebinar to submit your question online. I also want to really extend my appreciation to the many speakers we've had and all our colleagues and attendees who join the series each month. And more importantly, they provide a lot of valuable feedback to us and the library. And also recommend speakers. So Will Klajbor is back to update us on the EBM resource, the National Marine Ecosystem Status website. He has been a major player in establishing this website with a team and has been working, co-working with fisheries as well as OAR office. And we thank him for joining us again to bring us an update. And I just want to give a plug for our next speaker, Jamie Gore from our Pacific Islands Fisheries Science Center will be back, will join us on December 13th, same time, and he'll be focusing in on ecosystem status report for the Hawaiian Islands. So come back and join us in December. So Will, I'll just turn this over to you. And again, thanks for joining us again and updating us on what's happening with the website.
Sounds great. Thanks, Peg. Let me see here. And are you all seeing my screen okay? Awesome. Thank you for the introduction, Peg. I'd like to thank Peg, Shannon, and the rest of the NOAA Central Library team for having me back. My name is Will Klajbor. I'm a senior research associate through the University of Miami Cooperative Institute for Marine and Atmospheric Science. I work in service of both the Atlantic Oceanographic and Meteorological Laboratory as well as the Southeast Fisheries Science Center on a number of indicator and ecosystem science related projects, mostly focusing on offshore wind in the Gulf of Mexico at the moment. But I'm also the executive secretary and coordinator for the NOAA Science Council's Ecosystem Indicator Working Group, which is the steering group that manages the National Marine Ecosystem Status website, or NAMES. Before that, I was a Knauss Fellow and a proud graduate of Oregon State University and the University of Maryland at College Park. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the National Marine Ecosystem Status website. For those of you who have been coming to the EBM seminar for a while, you might recognize this title slide, and that's because I give a presentation to update the status of the portal every single year. So I am going to do that. I am going to reintroduce the site for those who are not familiar and talk a little bit about why it was made and what's available on the site. But today, I definitely want to focus on some of the updates that we're making to the site and some of the larger, more directional and sort of 30,000 foot changes that we're taking to the management of the site. So I always like to start my presentations with the key messages that I hope that you will take away. So for today, I want you guys to know that the NAMES website, or the National Marine Ecosystem Status Portal, provides marine ecosystem status at a glance and access to NOAA sites for deeper dives. Our metric of success within the Ecosystem Indicators Working Group, we always like to say, is that we want our end users to click off of our page and go to actual NOAA programs and teams and their data portals to access the data directly. So that's how we measure our success, is directing people towards the right types of ecosystem-based science information that they're looking for. And in the past, this presentation has really emphasized the fact that The website's consistently updated, not just with new data, but also with new indicators and new features. And we're always looking for collaborators, both within NOAA and other partner agencies. So if you have any ideas for new indicators or features for the website, we'd love to hear them. Please feel free to reach out to me after this presentation. We can have a meeting to talk about that. And then finally, the thing that I want to talk about a little bit more today, in addition to the new indicators that we have on the website, is our shift towards a more stakeholder-driven user experience. Now that the site has matured and our workflow, our ability to update the site has improved, we're starting to work a little bit more on the user experience side of things. So we have some exciting updates about what the website is going to look like and what features are going to be available in the near future. But let's start with our motivations. Why did we develop this website, and what is it? So I always like to say, let's pretend you're not a NOAA scientist and you're some sort of end user, maybe a college student or a local politician, and you're looking for some data related to some coastal or ocean feature process for a project. You know that NOAA is the federal agency and the leader in collecting, analyzing, and storing this information. But if you aren't familiar with all of NOAA's programs, the line offices, and the structure of the agency, it can be confusing on where to find some ecosystem data. For example, if you were to just type in chlorophyll NOAA to Google, as you would here, you get 3 great results. But for somebody who doesn't understand what MODIS is, or maybe how data is collected and stored within NOAA's enterprise, this could be very daunting. So Dr. Jason Link, who's the senior scientist for ecosystem management within NOAA Fisheries, was always getting questions about where to find specific data or info at a glance for certain ecosystem indicators. So when you want certain information, who are you going to call? You know to go to NOAA, but where? And across NOAA, there are a large number of successful programs and initiatives that develop and report on ecosystem indicators and report cards. I think Peg actually just mentioned one of the best examples of that, which is the ecosystem status reports within the integrated ecosystem assessment programs. These report cards and reports inform the public and also provide a suitable test bed for next generation research. But there's no single source or one-stop shop that summarizes or synthesizes across important efforts and or provides a broader overview of conditions across U.S. marine ecosystems or mission topics. And this gap wasn't due to a lack of data, interest resources or availability. This was just something that did not exist within NOAA's data enterprise. So to Dr. Link, it seemed efficient and effective to have this type of website. So that we were granted support from the NOAA Science Advisory Board or Science Council to form a fixed duration cross-NOAA working group that will work together to develop a web-based platform that will report on status and condition across U.S. geographies and NOAA mission areas based on a select set of existing ecosystem indicators. That was back in the late 2010s, and we now have a mature and functioning website that is web-based, scalable by geography and theme, and leverages and coordinates excellent work. It's not something that is, we're not in the business of creating new indicators, as we like to say, but rather curating data to develop indicators to report on the website. And then, like I said, the main goal of the website is to direct users to NOAA ecosystem resources for a deeper dive and direct access to data. So the portal was launched in October 2020, and we now have 37 distinct indicators across 21 themes. And that includes 8 large marine ecosystem regions and a national status that I'll talk about in just a moment. We have more than 50,000 page views since the portal was launched. I think that number is probably closer to 75,000 now. And we're really proud to say that 1 in 4 visitors clicks on a link to a NOAA or partner site to access data directly. And 1 in 4 visitors is a returning user, which shows that our stakeholders are at least getting some utility out of the website. And the website is updated each fall with new indicators, new data, and new features, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. One thing that makes this product unique in the NOAA ecosystem-based management data enterprise is the target audience and the level of reporting that we're doing. As you can see here, the level of stakeholder or end user that we're trying to reach with this information is pretty different from your traditional report card or ecosystem status report that might be targeted towards, say, a fishery management council or a state level manager who already works and is familiar with marine and ocean science data. Rather, we're trying to target members of the public who have around, say, an 8th grade science level education. And so that means that we are spending a lot of time focusing on simplifying key themes that might be more rudimentary to people who already work for NOAA or work in and around ocean science. And we spend a lot of time curating plain language to explain those things. So some examples of stakeholders that we're trying to target with this website are reporters and the general public, educators and students from the upper high school to lower undergraduate levels, stakeholders and the layman who might be interested in major ecosystem issues, for example, someone who lives by the coast and might be impacted by harmful algal blooms. And then as a secondary sort of target are the scientists, natural resource, and emergency managers who might want more information about where to access some of this data that could be important to their work. And I'll breeze through this. We do go through a dedicated indicator selection process that focuses on both the cohesiveness of the indicators themselves to make sure that they're defensible. So indicators have to be theoretically sound, have demonstrable importance to the ecosystem, have to be relevant and understandable, responsive to changes in the ecosystem, and complementary to other indicators that are already on the site to create a better picture of ecosystem status and trend. And on the data side, we're always looking for publicly available information that is specific and consistent. So we want to make sure that we're identifying time series that are likely to be continued into the future. And if those data sets do have exceptions and gaps, that there's explanations for those. And then finally, because we do operate mostly at the large marine ecosystem or regional level, we want to make sure that the data that we're using to represent our indicators have adequate spatial and temporal coverage to actually display what we're saying we're displaying. One of the things that's really unique about the NAMES website is our consistent approach to displaying data. Some of you who have some familiarity with the Integrated Ecosystem Assessment program might be familiar with this layout, but all of our indicators are visualized as a time series with a mean indicator value cutting across the middle and 90th and 10th percentile values sort of bracketing most of the data. We also present status and trends of indicators within the last 5 years of data, which is shown by the green box here. And those status and trend values are represented by the glyphs you can see on the right side of our legend here, with that plus symbol indicating that the recent trends across the last 5 years is above the 90th percentile relative to the entire mean of the data series, and that downwards arrow indicating that there's a downward trend across the last 5 years as the slope is less than 1 standard deviation of what you would see across the entire data series. This approach is consistent and is repeated across all domains within the website, no matter what type of indicator that you're looking at. And like I said, because of our target audience and the type of person that we're trying to reach with this website, we do spend a lot of time thinking about this display. And so we do curate specific plain language summaries, not only that explain the status and trends that are being represented on the visualization, but also why the indicator itself is important to greater ecosystem health, as well as how the data were collected and manipulated in order to represent it in this way. So if you were to go to the website and click on any visualization that we have there on the website, a pop-up box like this would show up with a plain language summary that's been curated specifically to that visualization. So at this point, sometimes I pop off of the presentation and click around the website. Logistically, I'm not going to do that, so I just have a couple slides demonstrating what it looks like. I would encourage viewers to go to ecowatch.noaa.gov and follow along as I give a brief tour of the website. There's 3 different ways to access the indicators on the website. They can be seen regionally or by large marine ecosystem, thematically, so that you can compare across large marine ecosystems. And then one thing that's very cool and novel is the national summary of indicators for which we have adequate data. So like I said, the first way to access some of the information on the site is thematically. And if you had an indicator of interest, say sea surface temperature, you'd be greeted with a page like this that shows the time series across large marine ecosystem scales Like I said, if you have specific interest in one of the time series and the actual status and trend within that region, you can click on each of these figures and a pop-up box will show that plain language summary that I was talking about. You can also view indicators regionally. So for example, if you had a specific interest in the Gulf of Mexico large marine ecosystem, you could click to that page and see all of the indicators that exist for that region in one place. This view, where the visualizations are stacked on top of each other, makes it very easy to compare status and trends of indicators and data sets that may or may not be connected by some of those relationships that exist within ecosystem science. And then finally, like I said, one thing that is novel about the website is the national status. So for indicators where we have adequate spatial and temporal coverage across all of our large marine ecosystem domains, we do aggregate that data into an annual national status. Obviously, there are caveats there, but this is a very helpful and simple way to see very broad macro scale trends in some of the most important concepts and data sets that NOAA produces. So now that we've gone through the tour, what's new about the website in 2023? We've just recently completed our fall update for this year, and I'm proud to say that we brought 2 new indicators on board, an ocean acidification indicator, which includes 3 distinct metrics that measure ocean acidification, and I'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment, and an ecosystem overfishing indicator. And ecosystem overfishing is an ecological, not legal term that ultimately evaluates how many fish are caught in an ecosystem relative to how much can be produced. So we use something called the Ryder Index, which is an example of an ecosystem overfishing indicator that's defined as total catch per unit area in an ecosystem and represents an advanced way to detect the total removal of fish biomass by area in a large marine ecosystem. We've also really focused, based on some stakeholder feedback from educators and people who have worked on website design, on paring down the plain language that we have on the website. So we've actually spent quite a bit of time over the last year trying to cut out excess verbiage and make sort of those blocks of text that show up under each of our visualizations smaller so that they are more accessible and easier to understand for people who are accessing the website. And then one thing we're really excited about, and hopefully the next time I give this talk, if Peg and Shannon and the Central Library team ever ask me to come back, I will be talking to you about our updated user experience. 2 things that we're working hard on in the background right now are dynamic figures, which will allow users to scroll over our time series plots, see values for individual data points, and actually access and download data directly with caveats where available. This is very exciting, and I think it'll make the site a lot more accessible and easier to use for people who want to look at specific information about an indicator in a region. And then another thing that we're working on with some communications folks is indicator stories. So we're trying to create sort of these narrative products that allow end users to directly connect the indicators that we're displaying on the website to real-time events and things that are more tangible in their lives. So, for example, one that we're working on right now that will be debuted soon is a narrative about sea surface temperature and marine heat waves, essentially defining those things, talking about how we collect that data and what changes to those indicators might mean for the broader sense of ecosystem health in the context of something that a person who lives by the coast might understand, for example, coral bleaching or harmful algal blooms. Those narratives will live on the website and will link out to other NOAA resources as to stay consistent with everything else that we do on this website. Like I mentioned, we're really excited to bring on an ocean acidification indicator this year. This was our most requested indicator, basically since the website went live. And really proud to say that we've been working with the team through NCEI and the University of Washington to bring this on board. The indicator itself is composed of 3 different metrics: sea surface pH, sea surface PCO2, and sea surface aragonite saturation state. Those values are calculated using automated shipboard systems that take in and analyze water while a vessel is moving and aggregated in the Sea Surface CO2 Atlas, or SOCAT. Those shipboard observations are then combined with data from available observational, model-based, and satellite products like sea surface temperature, salinity, and wind speed to create estimates of sea surface, ocean PCO2, pH, and aragonite saturation state at an adequate spatial and temporal resolution for what we need for the website. So really encourage you all to click around on that new indicator. Really exciting things happening there. Like I said, this was far and away our most requested indicator ever since the website went online. So we're really proud to deliver that this year. And like I said, things that we're working on right now, that featured indicator section that will come in the form of narratives. They're focused on layman public and educational user sectors. The other sort of advantage to repackaging our indicators in this way is that we're hopeful that this will create blocks of text and images that are easily shareable on social media and can act as a gateway for educators and people who are interested in certain topics to learn more and access NOAA data directly when it comes to specific ecosystem phenomena. Other future directions, and sort of tying this back to the beginning of the presentation, we're always developing new tools with partner programs and trying to extend the capabilities of the website. So if you have any ideas about how we can improve what we're doing here, either for those key end users that I was talking about, educators and interested members of the public, or for scientists and managers, please let us know. We'd love to work with you. We're also trying to co-develop with other webinized products that are being built out within NOAA's ecosystem-based science enterprise. There's a lot of great work going on with National Marine Sanctuaries and the Integrated Ecosystem Assessment Program to create these products and tools that are web-based and scalable and automated to certain degrees to share important ecosystem science information at various spatial and temporal scales. So we're always working across the aisle with folks on those teams to make sure that we have the best available information, the best available methodologies, and to make sure that those things are cohesive with one another. And then finally, we've been working a lot over the last year on boosting our signal and making sure that people know that this website exists and collecting feedback about what we already have so that we can always be improving. We spent time going out to marine science communication and education conferences and doing stakeholder focus groups with some of those end users that I was talking about. But if you have any ideas about how we might be able to grow the footprint of this website, please let us know. It's one of our goals for next year. As always, we would love it if you would get involved in the website. I encourage you all to peruse the web portal, click around, and let me know what you like or don't like, and spread the word to other people on your program or team so that they can see it too. My email is posted there. I'd love to talk about the website and what we have here. Reach out to me at willem.klajbor@noaa.gov if at any time you have questions, concerns, or comments. And let us know what we missed and might include in next year's update. Like I said, we're constantly collecting new ideas, trying to improve both the data itself and the indicators that we present on the website, as well as the user experience for the website. So take note of the data sets that we're currently using, the structure of the web pages, and anything else about the website. And we'd love to work with you. With that, I'll yield the rest of my time to questions. I'd like to thank Peg, Shannon, the rest of the NOAA Central Library team for having me on once again. And then I'd like to thank Dr. Jason Link and Dr. Chris Kelbel, the co-chairs of the Ecosystem Indicator Working Group, as well as the rest of the Ecosystem Indicator Working Group for allowing me to work with them and work on this great product. So thank you all again, and happy to take as many questions as we have time for.
Will, thank you so much. Before we say anything else, I'm going to speak for myself and Peg and say that we absolutely want to have you back next year to give us another update. And related to that, Will mentioned that he had presented with us a couple other times, and so I'm going to just pop links to those recordings in the chat in case anyone wants to learn a little bit more about any topics from your earlier presentations, we have those on our YouTube page. So if anyone has any questions right now, I'm not seeing anything come in yet, but if anyone has questions or comments, you can just pop those into the questions box on your control panel. And while we do that, I'll also say that we have a very, very brief survey when we log out today. Excuse me, it's just a few questions, and we just like to get all of our attendees' thoughts on the presentation and any suggestions that you may have for additional presentations that you'd like to see from us. So if you have a couple minutes, we would love to hear your feedback. Right, I'm not seeing anything come in yet. Let's just maybe give it a couple of minutes.
Sure.
Shannon, I have a question for Will. This is Peg.
Perfect.
You may have touched on this, Will, but I'm curious, this is always an issue with our websites. Do we have any sense of the analytics, any impacts that this is having with any of the communities that you've noted?
Yeah, absolutely. So we use Google Analytics to track, to the best of our ability, who's using the website and how many people are using the website. Like I said, most of those stats tend to be counting stats, and so we don't get a lot of demographic information about the types of people that are using the website. But one thing that's really interesting that we have found, outside of the basic stats that I shared earlier, close to 75,000 views since the website was launched, 1 in 4 users being returning users, and 1 in 4 people clicking off of our website to direct access to some of the data that's represented on the website. One other thing that I find really familiar is that we can get sort of this coarse view of the geographic area that the IP address who's accessing the website is coming from. And we found that some of our most popular users outside of common hubs for marine and ocean science, like California, Washington State, Maryland, Florida, and Massachusetts, we're also seeing a lot of use and access to the website from college towns all across the country, even in landlocked states, which is really encouraging. I think those kinds of places tend to be hubs for scientists and people who are thinking about these types of things, but I think it strongly indicates that that we are hopefully starting to reach the audiences that we're aiming for with this website through search engine optimization and hopefully through trying to find people who are Googling things like chlorophyll NOAA, like I said at the beginning of the website, or at the beginning of the presentation. So we don't get that much information from Google Analytics, unfortunately, but that is one of the really interesting and fun tidbits. Is most of our users come from those marine science hotbeds, like I said, on the coast, but also as well college towns and sort of those more middle-sized cities that have universities and colleges across the country.
Yeah, I was wondering if you had any examples of any communication, either with an academic or researcher, where someone specifically said this benefited X or this benefited Y. I'm assuming people reach out to you.
Sure. And I definitely don't want to get too far over my skis here, because in case there's anybody who is a science communicator or a science educator listening, they know just how hard it is to actually create content that is curated for the classroom and for I don't want to say that we've built education modules here, because that's not what we have, but we have talked to educators and people who have worked in sort of the hands-on science communication at the Sea Grant level, and then also with teachers who have used some of the plain language summaries, as well as some of the resource hubs that we have on the website to direct students and people who are using Sea Grant extension towards specific resources that might help them. One thing that was really interesting when we did some of those focus groups with educators and when we went and presented at some of those science education meetings was that one thing that they really like to work on at that upper high school, lower college level that we're aiming for is trying to build an argument using data. So in the philosophy of sort of education, lesson plans are sort of set up where students need to select some sort of statement or argument and then find data and reasoning to sort of back it up in one form or another. And so presenting data, it's sort of this course resolution, as we do here. Was pointed out, it's sort of a really unique starting point for types of assignments like that, where students can say, okay, well, it looks like sea surface temperature is increasing generally in the Gulf of Mexico. Why is that? And so we've actually heard of examples where teachers have used our status and trends sort of as starting points for exercises like that. And that's the type of thing we'd really like to get into in the future. Like I said, building out dedicated educational modules and specific lesson plans is something that's very time intensive and takes quite a bit of research and dedication. And I don't know if we have the capacity at the website to actually do something like that, but those are the types of ideas that we really like to hear from our teachers. And we want to make sure that when we're improving the website and adding new things to the website, that we're keeping experiences and uses like that in mind.
Thanks, Will. I think there's a number of good questions in there, Shannon.
Yes, we just got a whole barrage of questions come in all at once while you were talking. And it looks like, Will, you already answered someone's question, which is fantastic. So the first question that we have, this is really great. It says, to what degree do you include social, cultural, and governance data to support and enhance and provide further meaning to natural science data, such as policy implications? And is both spatial and non-spatial data included?
That's a great question. And this is something that I spend a lot of time thinking about, because obviously under the sort of definition of ecosystem-based science, we need to include sociocultural and human dimensions. So we do have a section dedicated to human dimensions indicators on the website right now. Unfortunately, many of those indicators are demographic and more quantitative in nature, things like coastal population, tourism and recreational sector, GDP, and beach closures. And so there is actually a gap in what we have here on the website with some of those, for lack of a better term, softer indicators that might speak to more of those policy implications or sociocultural dynamics. I think part of that has to do with the indicator and data criteria that I mentioned briefly at the beginning of the website. And also because a lot of times data related to that type of information tends to be collected more as a snapshot and less as a time series, which makes it difficult to translate into the indicator format that we have here on the website. But like I said, that type of information is critically important to actually doing ecosystem-based science. And so I'd love if you have ideas about ways to incorporate information like that, whether it be through the plain language that we have here on the website, through some sort of other feature on the website that we could add, or if you have data or some sort of indicator in mind that we don't have represented here on the website, I'd love to hear from you. But yeah, long answer to a short question. I think that's critically important. We'd love to add that to the website, but it's not something that we have right now.
Great, thank you. The next question says, can you speak briefly on the relationship between this site, EIAs, which I believe it stands for Integrated Eco Assessment Program, and the annual regional ecosystem status reports that NOAA produces? Is there any sort of relationship between all of those?
Yes, and so I would say that those efforts run in parallel to one another, but are not directly connected. And this is because the products that you mentioned, so the ecosystem status reports, some of the other report card products, are usually tied to direct management actions or specific audiences like fishery management councils, or state managers who might have some influence over some sort of management lever. We don't have that. This is more of an information sharing platform. And so the way that we represent our data and the data that we select are actually, it's actually affected by sort of the audience that we're trying to represent. So this is actually some interesting research that's going on within the integrated ecosystem assessment programs right now about how indicators themselves and the data that we use to populate those indicators can change depending on the scale or management scale that you're trying to impact. But that isn't to say that we don't have any sort of connections. Like I said, we're always working and sort of crosswalking our ideas with people at National Marine Sanctuaries, in the Coral Reef Conservation Program, and integrated ecosystem assessment programs to make sure that our methods, our workflows, and sort of the work that we're doing on the back end is as cutting edge and progressive as possible. There's also quite a bit of overlap with many of those teams. I myself am part of the Gulf of Mexico Integrated Ecosystem Assessment Program, and a number of folks who participate on the Ecosystem Indicators Working Group are either currently or have previously been members of integrated ecosystem assessment programs, or worked on sanctuary condition reports, other sort of report card products like that. So that's what I mean when I say we kind of work in parallel with those things. And I sort of like to think of a lot of these products sort of as a Russian nesting doll of assessments and reports, because they're not congruent. And the sea surface temperature indicator that you see on our website is going to be different than the sea surface temperature indicator you might see on the California Current IEA's website. But that's just because we're targeting different audiences and trying to impact sort of different mechanisms. But that doesn't mean they can't go together and that they can't be informative when put together.
Thank you. All right. The last question that we have is regarding building out any sort of curricula, and just wondering, what would that entail? Would it require like a partnership with science and demographic curriculum developers or something else?
Yeah, and I can't speak too much to this because I'm not an educator myself, but I think it would involve partnering with someone who really knows what they're doing and has studied education, and especially science education, and probably has hands-on experience working with those types of people. NOAA, the NOAA Office of Education, has a very robust team of people who work on products like this, and I know they put a lot of time and effort into refining their craft and making sure that the products that they endorse and work on are certified and sort of well established. We do have some partnerships with the NOAA Office of Education. I think that is one of the pathways that we're considering for the future, is partnering with a program like that, or potentially with Sea Grant Extension is another part of the NOAA enterprise. I think that has a lot of really great, talented people who think about these things a lot more deeply than we do. And I think building out sort of dedicated educational modules would require almost a full-time commitment from people who work on this website, the Ecosystem Indicators Working Group, to making something like that come to life. And then on top of that, there would need to be sort of long-term maintenance in place to make sure that the curriculum, the data that we're using to build out that lesson plan is up to date and accurate at all times. So there's a lot of challenges. It is something we've thought about, and it is definitely sort of a high effort undertaking, but I do think there would be quite a bit of value returned if we were to pursue that. So it's definitely something we're considering for the future.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Will. I'm not seeing any more questions come in. So I will turn this over to Peg to close us out today. We can get out a little bit early.
Great. Thanks, Will. Great job. Excellent to see the progress that you folks are making with respect to the website. And thanks, Shannon, again, for all your support. Please come back and join us on December 13th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Excuse me. And we'll have Jamie Go speak about the Hawaiian Islands Ecosystem Status Report. So look forward to that. And if anyone has suggestions, recommendations for future speakers that they'd like to hear from, please feel free to reach out to peg.purdy@noaa.gov. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.